What's the most embarrassing thing you did as a kid that you think about to this day? There was this one guy in geometry that was constantly making fun of me. One day, after I couldn't take it anymore, I pulled out my phone and acted like I was talking to snipers who were trained to follow around people who had been mean to me. I still cringe myself into a ball whenever I think about it. Edit cheese. This was popular. A little more information. I was like 15 or 16 at the time. Way older than I should have been for this level of idiotness. I told the kid that I have people following him and that he should lay off or else. He laughed in my face. Oh, and it was in front of a group of people as well, so they all thought I was a dweeb. Take the shot. Edit. If we are doing super embarrassing, I got a couple. I was the master of blatant lies in about 1st grade, probably one of my earliest memories. I had to be cool, so I found a decently cool looking rock out behind my house. Brought it to show and tell and told the whole class I found it floating whilst on a cruise in the ocean. Couldn't understand the laughter. So I doubled down and took one of those little animal pendants from McDonald's that came out for the Power Rangers movie. I think it was the mammoth or something that came in the kids' meal. And tried to tell the whole class that my great grandfather had carved it before his passing. I was instantly called out and told to sit the hell down. I was, and continue to be, an absolute loser. When I was 11 or 12, if I had a crush on someone, I would go find their parents in the phone book, look up the phone number on white pages, find their address, and then in an attempt to impress them, I would repeat back to them their parents' names, home phone number, and address. I was literally a serial stalker and for some reason no one ever reported me. Edit. I'm a girl, so that's probably why no one thought it was that creepy. But no, I do not still do this, and yes, I understand it's completely unacceptable. Middle school me was cringy as duck. I've moved on. Face with tears of joy. Edit 2. My brother just told me he saw this and thought of me. He remembers too. Oh no. Oh, this one is spicy. You're telling me it's not normal to stalk someone's life online and then bond over all the juicy info you got? No, Zuck. It's not. I'm 39 and I still think about my first almost kiss. It was so awkward and embarrassing. I was 11 or 12 and at camp, we were playing spin the bottle. I was a really naive little girl and didn't quite understand what I was getting myself into. The bottle landed on me, and I stood up to kiss the older and far more experienced boy in front of me. I essentially unhinged my jaw and opened up my mouth really wide to kiss him. He stepped back and took one look at me and said no. I essentially unhinged my jaw. No. That mental image. I mean, I'm sorry you went through that and yada yada yada, but I'm ducking dying over here. RIP. Me and my friend were playing with some robot dog toy or something, but it died. Went into my parents' room, knowing the dresser beside their bed had a package of batteries. We rummaged through the drawer and accidentally stumbled across my parents' ex-toy and some dirty magazines. Our immediate idea is to prank my older sister and plant them in her room. Ultimately, we decide that would be too mean, since she wasn't a part of the discovery and it wouldn't be funny to her. We grab the batteries and return to our dog toy. Anyways, long story short, my friend thought it would be funny to plant the dildo and mags in my room. I shouldn't have trusted her, but the second I went to the bathroom she snuck them under my bed. I didn't realize for the entire weekend. Monday morning at school, she comes up to me dying of laughter and asks what my parents said. I didn't really get what she meant, then she spilled the beans. My parents' dildo and porn magazines are under my bed frame. Cue to me running home after school, praying to God my parents don't realize what is missing from their bedside drawer. My mom's acting funny when I get home. She asks how my day is, I say fine. She tells me she cleaned my room for me in this really weird tone. My stomach drops, and I'm like duck. Great, my parents think I actively stole and used their dildo. I drop my bag off in my room and look under my bed, and everything is gone. She definitely found the dildo. I was so shy and awkward I just ducking avoided them for as long as possible. I should have just told them my best friend was pranking me, but the idea of talking to my parents about their dildo made me want to die. So I just didn't. So my parents have continued on, to this day, thinking I took their dildo and porn magazines and hid them under my bed. When I was like 7 or 8, I was staying over at a friend's for a sleepover. Had to go to the bathroom late at night, but it was down a super creepy dark corridor and was too spooked. Friend suggested I pee in one of his baby brother's diapers, and I was so desperate that I did. His mom came in to find me holding a soaked diaper with piss all over the floor whilst he was laughing hysterically. 1/10 want to die every time it comes back to me, which is at least twice a week. Similar thing I did as a kid. When my parents got divorced, I lived in an apartment building and I made a friend who lived on the floor below me. She had a small 2-bedroom, and her room was on the other end. We had to sneak past her mom's room to go to the bathroom, and it was loud, and we were scared, so we used the bowl we had popcorn in and called it our pee bowl for the night. And her dumping it out in the morning was mortifying. I liked this boy in my art class, and found out through some mutual friends that he lived a few blocks from me. So instead of just talking to him at school like a sane person would, I decided I'd get his attention by sneaking out of my house at 4 AM with a big bag of garbage. Walking all the way to his house, throwing the garbage all over his lawn, then ringing his doorbell and running back home. The next day at school, I asked him if anything weird happened at his house last night. When he said yeah, I revealed that I was the one who pranked his family last night. He just awkwardly said oh, okay, and didn't talk to me for a few months after that. What the duck was I thinking? This one had me in tears. I was weird as duck too. I found out this boy I liked lived 2 streets away from me, rural area, so I used to go sit on the road across from his house all casually, in case he came out. I would literally bring a book and snacks, to try to look like I just happened to enjoy hanging out on that random street. Why? Oh god. When I was like 7 or 8, a friend of my parents had a baby. They already had a 4-year-old girl too. My dad and I were watching as the other dad showed the 4-year-old how to change a nappy. I had recently seen the first Austin Powers movie. So I said, in my infinite wisdom, does that make you horny baby? Yeah, as the 4-year-old girl was wiping her baby sister. My dad was mortified. In hindsight, so am I. Jesus Christ, I feel embarrassed just from reading this. Ooh, that reminds me of a different horny story. When I was about 8, I was obsessed with the PC game Dungeon Keeper, which had a demon character called Horny, and I was too innocent to get the joke. When my dad got us an AOL internet subscription, and was trying to find an account name that wasn't already taken, I made a load of suggestions with horny, things like, horny dad, horny guy. Much to his bemusement. I was at a sleepover in middle school. I had gotten new pajamas and everything. I was so excited because I really wanted to be friends with these girls. Woke up in the middle of the night, only to find I had wet myself. I had to sneak into her sister's room where we put out bags to find a change of pants. All I had were jeans. When everyone woke up, I told them I got cold. My mom told me I smelled when I got in the car to go home. I told her their beagle smelled bad and slept with me all night. Speech 100. Odor 5. My mom and dad had a lot of pet names for each other, honey, pumpkin, lovey, etc. And I loved to play dress up pretending to be my mom and imitate the things she said. One night, when they thought I was sleeping, I overheard my parents arguing and she called him a rat bastard. Never having heard this, I thought it was a made-up love word like Pookie. My dad comes to pick me up from daycare maybe a week later. I'm playing house. He comes in and still playing Among. I scream for all my classmates and their parents to hear. How was your day, rat bastard? TLDR, called my father a rat bastard in front of all the parents at Christian daycare pickup. When my nephew was a toddler, he came to visit me and was so excited to see me. The first words out of his mouth, "Hey uncle, duck you." Apparently, that was how his dad greeted an old friend he ran into on the way over. So the little guy just assumed that was what you say to someone you haven't seen in a while. I still crack up every time I picture his face when he said it. He was so enthused. I was in high school and asked a teacher if she was a member of the Mile High Club in front of the class. I had never flown before and was not aware that the Mile High Club was for people who had X in a plane. I was thinking about the memberships, where you sit in private rooms to wait for your plane and get free things. Basically wanted to kill myself afterward. Yes, she was attractive. No, she did not answer. I did the same thing. Except with my mom, and I quickly realized what I had said and corrected myself. Somehow, I'd gotten confused with Club 49, which is a program with Alaska Airlines. I hope she didn't notice. She didn't say anything about it. When I was a kid, I used to watch TV with my parents, and I watched a couple French kiss. So I thought that was how you were supposed to kiss everyone. So later my mom asked for a kiss from me, and I tried to French kiss her. I sometimes think that I was a speckhead kid. What the duck? This just reminded me of my brother and I doing movie star kisses, where we're just licking each other's faces. I just remember showing our mom one time, and she was like, yeah, don't do that. We were maybe 6 and 4 at the time. Edit. WTF as in, I could have gone my whole life with this memory repressed. My sister and I, we're about that age when we decided to touch tongues once to see what it felt like. Having a sibling is weird. Growing up, my parents really wanted to make sure I wouldn't smoke. Most of my grandparents passed from smoking related illnesses, so this is understandable. Except they drilled it in my head a little too hard. One day, in kindergarten, a classmate was absent. The next day she was there, and she was super sad. We asked her what happened, and she said that her grandma died of lung cancer. I told her it served her right. The teacher was not pleased. I apologized the next day as well as a 5-year-old could, but damn if that hasn't stuck with me since. If it makes you feel any better, I was a militantly anti-smoking kid too. Unfortunately a smoker later in life. My granddad smoked and I lectured him constantly. The first birthday he had after his stroke, my mum confiscated the card 6-year-old me wrote to him because it read, "Dear Granddad, happy birthday. Are you sorry you smoked now?" When I was in kindergarten, waiting outside to be picked up by my mom, I saw her approaching. I closed my eyes and ran at her and hugged her. Opened my eyes, and I apparently had not aimed correctly, as I was hugging the wrong woman. One of my classmates yelled at me to stop hugging their mom. I still think about it. Gotta play it off as a power move. She's my mom now, Emily. Assert dominance. I was in primary school, year 6 I believe, and I would have been about 11 at the time. One day, the deputy principal was having an intense discussion in his classroom during lunch break. He seemed to be acting as a mediator to sort out a conflict between a group of uncomfortable looking kids who were all standing around him. I happened to be using one of the computers in the room nearby, and listened in curiously as I overheard bits of whatever drama was unfolding between them. To this day, I have no ducking idea what came over me, but for some reason, I decided it was appropriate to walk over, lean down and slam my palms on the teacher's desk like I owned the place, say, "So, what's going on here?" and look around at each of them expectantly like they were actually about to recount the story to me in its entirety. The deputy principal was this stern older guy who was not the type to be ducked with. He just looked at me with the most incredulous look on his face for a couple of seconds and blinked. "Rah, none of your business." Everyone stared at me in silence for several seconds and I walked off sheepishly. I still have no idea what came over me that day. This was not normal behavior for me. I still cringe about it occasionally. This reminded me of when I was in 3rd grade. I was the most polite little kid you ever met and my teacher loved me. One day, she was explaining a project to the class, and I have no idea what I was thinking, but I stood up in the middle of her talking, faced the class, and said, "Blah, blah, blah. Enough talk, let's just get to work." I honestly don't know if I thought the kids would laugh, or if maybe I thought the teacher would think I was smart for not needing so much of an explanation. All I got was shocked stares from the kids and the teacher. Finally, my teacher told me to sit down. I did, absolutely mortified, and she finished explaining the project. Afterward we had a little talk about appropriate school behavior.